Are you the fool for standing your ground? 5 stories that challenge everything you believe about duty, loyalty, and fairness. What if the people calling you selfish, heartless, or foolish are the ones who've been manipulating you all along? In a world obsessed with doing the right thing, we're conditioned to believe that sacrifice is noble, loyalty is unbreakable, and fairness means splitting everything down the middle. But what happens when the scales tip so far that you're drowning in someone else's mess? These 5 raw, unfiltered stories rip apart those assumptions, exposing the messy truth about obligation, entitlement, and the courage to say, enough is enough. Each one will make you question, am I the fool for holding my ground? Or are they the fools for expecting me to carry their weight? Buckle up, this isn't your typical feel-good advice. It's a wake-up call that might just change how you see the world. Story 1. The ex-wife who thought she could have it all. Ben, 36, thought he was doing right by his kids. Divorced from Kate, 34. He shared 50/50th custody of their 2 teens, no child support required. That, Ben went above and beyond, covering all medical bills, insurance, extracurriculars, and even socking away $150 a month per kid for college. On top of that, he sent Kate 50% of his commissions and 35% of his bonuses, not because a court ordered it, but because he believed it was fair. Sounds like a stand-up guy. Right. Then life threw a curveball. A devastating accident left Ben unable to work for 5 months. Fired from his job, he clawed his way back with a new role that accommodated his disability but at a massive pay cut. With no bonuses or commissions, his new wife, Sarah, stepped up, paying all their bills and even covering the extra money, and used to send Kate. For months, Sarah kept their family afloat while Ben rebuilt his life. But when they told Kate they could no longer afford the voluntary payments, her calls came out. Kate saw Sarah's teenage daughter driving a $6.00 car, partly funded by Sarah matching her daughter's $4,000 savings, and assumed they were swimming in cash. Never mind that Sarah's daughter paid her own insurance and gas. Kate, without consulting Ben, bought their daughter a car, expecting Ben to keep footing the bill. When he couldn't, she dragged them to court, demanding child support. The twist: the court ruled Kate had to pay Ben $300 a month because she out-earned him, especially now that his disability slashed his income. Now Kate's family is on a warpath, accusing Sarah of spoiling her daughter and ruining Kate's life. They claim Kate might lose her home because of the child support payments, and it's all Sarah's fault for not coughing up more cash. Sarah feels like a monster, but should she? The emotional hook. Sarah's guilt is palpable. She's caught between wanting to be the good wife and the sinking realization that Kate's entitlement is bleeding her dry. The cognitive bias here is the sunk cost fallacy. Sarah's already sacrificed so much, so why not keep going? But the logic is brutal. Kate's financial mismanagement isn't Sarah's burden. The controversial angle: maybe fairness isn't about splitting the pie evenly, it's about recognizing when someone's taking more than their share. Illustrative example: imagine you're at a potluck. You bring a homemade lasagna, slaving over it for hours. Someone else shows up with a bag of chips, eats half your lasagna, and then demands you bring more next time because they can't afford to cook. Would you keep feeding them? Or would you call them out? That's Sarah's dilemma, except the stakes are her family's financial stability. Story 2. The brother who betrayed his sister, or did he? At 14, Jake thought he was just being a decent human. Playing basketball with his friends during lunch, he noticed a kid crying on the grass. The boy, Alex, was being bullied for his unmanly interests: skincare, fashion, and iced Starbucks coffee. Jake and his crew didn't just console Alex. They invited him to play ball, discovered he was a natural, and even encouraged him to try out for the team. Over weeks, Alex became part of their group, A kid who'd been ostracized now finding his place. Then came the bombshell. When Alex's phone slipped out and a friend saw cruel Instagram messages, Jake realized his twin sister, Lily, was the ringleader of the bullies. Lily had a history of tormenting others, from elementary school detentions to middle school suspensions. But their parents always bailed her out. This time, Jake couldn't stay silent. He and his friends went to the assistant principal with Alex. Lily and her posse got called out, and Lily, as the mastermind, was expelled. Jake's parents were livid, accusing him of betraying his sister. Lily called him a snitch and said she hated him. Only their 72-year-old grandfather, a former activist, backed Jake, proud of his courage to stand up for what's right. Jake's friends reassured him. But the guilt gnaws. Did he ruin his sister's life? The emotional hook. Jake's torn between loyalty to his sister and loyalty to his values. The in-group bias makes him feel like he's betraying his family. But his moral compass screams that bullying can't go unchecked. The controversial angle. Maybe family first is a toxic myth when it protects bad behavior. Illustrative example. Picture a lifeguard watching a swimmer drown. His sister is the one pushing the swimmer's head underwater. But his parents say, "Don't intervene, she's family." Does he save the swimmer or let his sister keep harming? Jake chose to save Alex. But at what cost? Story 3. The daughter-in-law who snapped. At 25, Emily and her husband, Mark, are happily child-free. They adore their nieces and nephews, showering them with love, but they've built their lives around careers, not cribs. Mark's mother, Linda, a staunch believer in traditional gender roles, can't stand it. Every family gathering, she jabs at Emily. "At your age, I had 3 kids. Or what's the point of your life without children?" Emily grits her teeth and Mark tells her to ignore it. But the cuts keep coming. The breaking point came at a family reunion. Emily was playing with her cousin's toddler, laughing and carefree, when Linda swooped in. "See how easy this is. Just have your own kids and stop being lazy." Emily's patience shattered. She fired back. "I don't want kids." Linda, kind of like your husband didn't want them. "Maybe if you'd respected his feelings, your marriage wouldn't have imploded." The room froze. Linda burst into tears, and half the family rushed to her side. Some laughed, others raged, and Emily felt like the villain. Mark pulled her aside, admitting Linda deserved it, but wishing Emily hadn't gone for the jugular. Now Emily's getting texts calling her heartless. She regrets the delivery, but not the truth. Was she wrong to snap? The emotional hook. Emily's frustration is universal. Who hasn't been pushed to the edge by a judgmental relative? The confirmation bias fuels Linda's belief that Emily's life is wrong, while Emily's outburst taps into our primal need to defend our choices. The controversial angle. Maybe politeness is overrated when someone's been disrespecting you for years. Illustrative example. Think of a coworker who keeps stealing your lunch, smirking as they do it. You stay quiet, hoping they'll stop. But one day you catch them red-handed and yell, "Get your own food." They cry, and suddenly you're the bad guy. That's Emily's story, years of swallowed anger exploding in one raw moment. Story 4. The freshman who offended a classmate. Leela, 19, a college freshman, volunteers on a committee to help low-income students transition to campus. Her job is to identify students eligible for special programs, tutoring, social clubs, and more designed for those on full financial aid. One day, she met Tom, an 18-year-old whose family earns $65,000 a year, qualifying him as low income under the school's $70,000 cutoff. When Leela asked if he wanted to join these programs, Tom snapped, insisting his parents had good jobs and he wasn't disadvantaged. Leela, unprepared for his reaction, fumbled, pointing to his file. Tom stormed out, humiliated. Leela feels awful, but she was just doing her job. The school's labeling system, not her, flagged Tom as low income. Still, she wonders if she mishandled it or if the system itself is flawed. The emotional hook. Leela's caught in a no-win situation, trying to help but accidentally shaming someone. The stereotype threat makes Tom reject a low-income label, fearing it defines him. The controversial angle. Maybe labeling kids as disadvantaged does more harm than good, perpetuating stigma instead of support. Illustrative example. Imagine a doctor telling a patient, "You qualify for our charity program because you're poor." The patient, proud of their hard-earned job, feels insulted, not help. That's Tom's reaction. Leela's just the messenger, but the message stings. Story 5. The roommate who refused to pay. At 25, Mia, a recent grad, lives with her 27-year-old roommate, Claire. They're friendly, but not close. A month ago, Claire's mother died suddenly, leaving her devastated. Claire cut her work hours to 3 days a week, spending most of her time in bed or on the phone with her dad. Mia, feeling sympathy, took over all household chores, cooking, cleaning, even scrubbing Claire's bathroom. But when Mia asked Claire to pay her share of the rent, Claire balked. "You expect me to pay rent after my mum died? I'm not even working full-time." Mia, strapped for cash herself, can technically cover this month's rent by dipping into her savings. But she's worried about setting a precedent. She negotiated a 2-week extension with their landlord, but Claire still insists Mia should cover it because she's grieving. Mutual friends are calling Mia heartless, but Mia's pushing back. Is she the fool for demanding Claire pay? The emotional hook. Mia's empathy clashes with her survival instincts. The reciprocity bias makes her feel obligated to help Claire, but the logic is clear. Grief doesn't erase financial responsibilities. The controversial angle. Maybe compassion has limits when it jeopardizes fairness. Illustrative example. Picture lending your neighbor your lawnmower. They break it, then demand you lend them your car because they're going through a tough time. You'd say no, right? Mia's in the same spot. Her kindness is being weaponized, and she's drawing the line to deeper truth. Why these stories hit so hard? These stories aren't just about money, loyalty, or family drama. They're about the invisible lines we draw between self-preservation and sacrifice. Each person, Sarah, Jake, Emily, Leela, Mia, faces a moment where they're labeled the fool for refusing to bend. But look closer. The real fools are the ones demanding endless concessions, exploiting guilt to get their way. The availability heuristic makes us overestimate the importance of being nice, because society floods us with stories of selfless heroes. But what about the unsung heroes who say, "No more"? These stories challenge the status quo, exposing how guilt, entitlement, and outdated norms manipulate us into carrying burdens that aren't ours. The provocative truth? Sometimes, standing your ground isn't selfish, it's survival. Call to action. Take back your power. Don't let guilt or fear of being the bad guy trap you in someone else's chaos. Here's how to act now. Audit your obligations. List everyone you're financially or emotionally supporting. Ask, is this my responsibility? Or am I being guilted into it? Be ruthless, your future depends on it. Set boundaries of confidence. Practice saying, "I can't take this on," without apologizing. Role-play with a friend to build courage. The commitment and consistency principle means once you set a boundary, stick to it. Seek allies, not critics. Surround yourself with people like Jake's grandfather, those who cheer your strength, not shame your limits. The social proof bias will reinforce or resolve. Act today. Take one situation where you're overextending yourself. Have that tough conversation, renegotiate terms, or walk away. The scarcity effect makes delay feel safe. but every day you wait costs you more. You're not the fool for choosing yourself. Share your story in the comments. What boundary are you setting today? Let's build a community of people who refuse to be guilt-tripped into submission. Conclusion. Redefining strength. These 5 stories: Sarah's battle with an entitled ex, Jake's stand against bullying, Emily's clapback at judgment, Leela's clash with a flawed system, and Mia's fight for fairness aren't about being nice. They're about redefining strength as the courage to say, "This isn't my burden." In a world that glorifies sacrifice, choosing yourself is revolutionary. So, the next time someone calls you a fool for standing your ground, smile and remember, the real fools are the ones who think they can guilt you into carrying their weight forever.